Hello, hello everyone. This is my first interview on Allegheny Independent Media in a while. I'm here with Chuck Pennacchio. He is past president of Healthcare for All PA. And if correct me if I'm wrong, you were a past candidate for U.S. Senate.
Correct.
You ran against Bob Casey in a primary.
Yeah, I prefer to say that he ran against me because I got in the race first.
Oh, okay. and and yes, he's a historian and a longtime healthcare advocate. So I thought it's a pleasure to have him on this podcast. And well, I'm ready to get started. So I'm going to stop the share and just go back. Well, welcome, Chuck.
Thank you so much, Paul. Great to see you again.
So okay, so I remember. Yes, he did recently. He's been writing about like how to fight fascism. I guess that is a growing concern amongst many on the right. Well, many on the left about the right. Many are taking just sort of a my way or the highway approach, and just sort of and trying to regress on many of the social gains we've made over the last 20, whatever social gains we've made on the last 20 years. So, okay, I'll let you start, Chuck.
Okay. So yeah, the work that I do, Paul, it's become much more expansive than when we first came together. I was the one of the co-founders and the first executive director of Healthcare for All Pennsylvania, following my Senate run in 2006 in the Democratic primary 2006. That seat is now held by Bob Casey. When people after that race said, "Gee, Chuck, I'm sorry you lost," and I said, "What do you mean we lost? We just created a single payer movement here in Pennsylvania." That race actually disconnected. It connected efforts that were previously disconnected across the state of Pennsylvania. And then we reformed ourselves as Healthcare for All Pennsylvania, which still exists to this day. We've run that universal healthcare bill most legislative sessions since that time. And out of that effort, I began to rethink with others, how do we make inroads with a very conservative legislature? Pennsylvania is really a very conservative state. Republicans tend to dominate the state legislature. Democrats and Republicans flip-flop the governor's mansion. But the question was that at that point, Paul, how do we make breakthroughs with people
Yeah.
who are much more conservative? And we made the argument that single payer, universal health care, sometimes called Medicare for All, improved Medicare for All,
Yeah.
is the fiscally responsible approach to healthcare. It'll actually save money, save lives, create jobs,
Yeah.
and make business more functional here in the state of Pennsylvania. And so
Mhm.
out of that, we connected with other states, 22 in all, and then formed something called One Payer States. And that's where I am now as the president of One Payer States. I stepped back from Healthcare for All PA. I do advising over there, but we're now working in multiple states, in Oregon and Washington, and I'm moving to Oregon later this year.
Yeah.
That they're really leading the fight. They have the best chance of breaking through and modeling the universal healthcare system, similar to the way Canada got to healthcare nationally through the province of Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
So that's the healthcare piece, and then I'll just finish with this real quick, and then we can dive back in. I've also started up an effort during the pandemic of what our good friend Bob Mason calls a think tank with a heart. A think tank with a heart. We meet most Sundays, and it's the Justice for All Network, and it's evolved into now a quarterly summit meeting around connecting ourselves across generations, as well as issues based on shared values and a concern for all social justice issues. So if we're only going to get healthcare justice if we connect with housing folks working in
Mhm.
housing justice and climate justice and education justice and gun violence justice and so forth.
Mhm.
And so that's the work I'm centered on right now, primarily. But it brings everything together. It connects the healthcare, it connects the health issues. So in a way that will get us to the point of being powerful enough to win on all fronts, especially from the outside of the political structure, outside of the legislative structure, but
Okay.
coordinating with the inside, our allies on the inside. So that in a
Okay.
nutshell is what I'm up
Yes.
to.
Okay, I guess one question I have. So do you know what the current numbers are in the state Senate and the state legislature in terms of Republican advantage?
Yeah, the Republicans in the state have, I think, like I want to say a 24 seated majority in the state house, and I'm just I know they have a majority in the state Senate. I think of 6 seats, so we have to flip 4 of them, as I understand, in order to get back the Senate, and we would need to
Okay.
flip, I want to say 13 seats in the state house
Okay.
in order to get back that. And then, of course, electing Josh Shapiro governor over this
Mhm.
crazy Doug Mastriano
Mastriano. Yes.
individual.
Okay. I mean, yeah, the one, I mean, I know I have read in Oregon there is a close race for governor, unfortunately. So certainly that could tank any hopes for any immediate hopes for a single payer in Oregon.
Yeah, that would make it problematic if a Republican were to be elected there. Oregonians, about 2/3 of Oregonians consistently poll in support, knowing that their taxes are going to go up. But most Oregonians do also realize that their costs are going to go down.
Mm-hmm.
So that currently what people are paying in the form of premiums, co-pays, and deductibles, that goes away.
Yeah.
Then if you pay a simple flat tax, I think it's going to be around 3-4%. That'll cover everything, all your healthcare expenses, and removed also will be the risk of medical bankruptcy, personal bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
It'll take the burden off of businesses. It'll take the burden
Yeah.
off of public institutions. It's so logical, but we've been gaslit for so long by the medical, what I call the medical industrial complex. The four
Yeah.
pillars are big insurance, big hospitals, big pharma, and
Yeah.
the big medical uh, manufacturing sector that
Yeah.
produce the instruments for the infrastructure for medical care.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, yes. So this is all important, and yes, you are going up against a very powerful echo chamber. To,
Right. Yeah, that's a good. I mean, you make a really good point there. I mean, alluding to the fact that our media in our the media environment in which we live is so uh, it's so fractured, it's
hmm
so polarized. It pulls people into so many different directions, and it causes confusion, alarm, and in some quarters, and this is where I stay focused. It also is a place where we can restore hope, and what I call radical hope. And that's
Yeah.
what we really need to center our energy and our focus is believing. You have to believe that you can achieve change in order
Yeah.
to do so. And it's a psychological game that we're playing here, Paul, as you know.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm grateful that you're having me on this program today, just to share those hopes.
Okay. So yes, I mean, but I mean, at the same time, when they're opposing it, they are moving towards more, the right is moving towards more radical solutions. I mean,
Absolutely.
like I know we have a hotly contested House race here in like Cambria County between, a MAGA Republican Renee Billow and like a blue dog Democrat Frank Burns, and like he's not going after Billow for her QAnon beliefs, but he's going after her because some of the people backing her campaign have supported bringing Afghan refugees to Johnstown or in Cambria County, letting them settle here, is going after him. So the Democrats now going after her for that.
Right. I mean, actually attacking her from the right, it sounds.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
The,
On
the,
that issue. Yeah.
that's unfortunate. That playing that anti-immigrant card, but I hear that that's what's happening in the Senate race over in Ohio as well, uh,
Yeah.
with Ryan against Vance.
Hmm.
This is not the pathway forward. We
No.
really need to unite across all lines and embrace our brothers and sisters,
Yeah.
the immigrants. My
Hmm.
last name's Pennacchio. My family,
Yeah.
we were immigrants at one point, a few
Mine
generations.
too.
Yeah, and who can say they weren't?
Yeah.
But to close the door to the pathway for citizenship is a huge mistake. And we have how many? 11 million young people in this country who grew up in this country, and they've been denied
Hmm.
citizenship, pathway to citizenship, so-called dreamers. So it's not going to help. And
No.
the fear mongering from the right, this ridiculous white replacement theory that Tucker Carlson pushes out, it grabs a lot of people who we've worked together with
Yeah.
in the healthcare justice space,
Hmm.
and has them in a state of alarm.
Yeah.
But the reality is that we're slipping into a state of civil war,
Yeah.
and not the civil war you imagine from
A
1860,
shooting war, yeah, but an ideological war.
but an armed war at the same time. There's a strong violent element to it. We're just
Yeah.
watching Paul Pelosi, and the right wing doubles down on their conspiracy theories as to why
Yeah.
Pelosi was attacked. And this is,
Mhm.
like you said, that's the echo chamber that is so dangerous, getting
Mhm.
people to believe absolute nonsense.
Yeah. I know. And I guess another problem I've seen, maybe one problem I have seen on the left,
Uh-huh.
I was active with put people first. And, some people in that organization, they were like posting and praising, say, Joseph Stalin and Mao Zedong. And I just had to say, no, those are not people you should admire.
Wow. Yeah. Right.
And
Those are mass murderers. I mean, let's
yeah.
look at the facts here. Yeah.
Hmm.
The-
Yeah,
the-
it doesn't matter who does it, it's wrong.
correct. Right. Right.
So,
I typically identify as a social democrat.
yeah.
And I mean, I don't think of myself, Paul, as an ideologue. I think ideology can really turn us sideways, and to me, it's too rigid a way of thinking about the world. I think we have this in common, that we need to
Mhm.
think in terms of methodology.
Yeah.
How do we get from here to these solutions? And,
Hmm.
and it means borrowing ideas, on the left
Yeah.
and center and the right, and
Mhm.
cobbling together the best solutions that are going to build the coalitions.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I even did where I remember seeing some of that with when we were working together on healthcare for all PA. We had a hard time keeping younger people involved in the organization. So, or that does seem that seems to be a struggle, and maybe part of it might even be partially a digital divide.
Right. So I will want to invite you and your listeners to our intergenerational, our second summit is coming up on November 19th.
Oh,
And our
okay.
keynote speaker is going to be Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal.
Yeah.
I'm from Seattle. And as you know, she's the chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, and
Mhm.
she's also the prime author of the National Medicare for All bill. But
Mhm.
Pramila believes, as do I, that it's more likely we're going to see advances on universal health care beginning at the state and regional levels,
Mhm.
modeling it as we've tried to do here in Pennsylvania, and as Canada did back in the 1960s with Saskatchewan.
Okay.
So that intergenerational summit it's a 2-hour meeting on November 19th from 12 to 2 Eastern time that will bring together folks not only across generations but across race,
Mhm.
class, geography, gender, and social justice issues. But what it is that bonds us is our shared values. We believe in compassion. We believe in justice. No justice, no peace. If we don't,
Mhm.
if we don't strive toward justice, our society is going to continue swinging further to the right, as it has really since the 1960s. To me, the pivotal year was 1968 when we lost Martin Luther King, we lost Bobby Kennedy,
Yeah.
Vietnam War blew up in Johnson's face. The Democratic Party has never recovered, and arguably our country has never recovered its
Yeah.
heart and its soul after the events of 1968.
Okay. I mean, Pramila Jayapal, she wasn't she the one who was going to send a letter to President Biden urging him to find a negotiated solution to the war in Ukraine?
Correct, right. And then she got considerable blowback on that. And then ultimately pulled the letter. I think she had 30 co-signers, if I'm
Mhm.
not mistaken.
Yeah.
Um, and she also submit, and that's a courageous thing to do. I mean, the reality is that we're teetering on potential nuclear war. I,
Yeah.
you know, I, there has to be, as horrible as Putin's behavior has been here, we also need to look in the mirror, we Americans, and understand that we actually helped to create these conditions by
Mhm.
walking away from a pledge we made at the end of the Cold War. That pledge was that we were going to uh, aid Russia in,
Yeah.
in evolving really as a Scandinavian type country, social democratic,
Mhm.
democratic socialist type country.
Yeah.
That's what Mikhail Gorbachev wanted. He actually wanted to remodel Russia as like a Scandinavian model, which would fuse principles of, of elements of free market capitalism with socialism. Well, and we walked away from that. And not only did we walk away from that, but from a Russian perspective, we've practically encircled that country by expanding NATO further and further to
Mhm.
the east. And
Yeah.
so this is not an apology letter for on behalf of Vladimir Putin, but what he is and what he represents is in many ways it's a logical development based on what Russia has experienced and what they see as a threat. Russia is an empire. They've been an empire since the 1300s with the first czars. And the United States is an empire, and we have to see that for these almost 200 years we've been coming closer and closer to a collision. I mean, the Cold War was just the latest manifestation, and we're still, I would argue, in a state of Cold War. But we have to wake up and give Putin an off ramp and allow diplomacy to play its role here, so that we don't go to head
Mhm.
toward a nuclear war. There's no scenario worse than that, tragic as it has been for the Ukrainian people.
Okay. Yes. I mean, yes, I realize, yeah, lot of challenges, and yes, I mean, someone like say Tulsi Gabbard, who's been criticizing, well, I guess maybe, from the right, well, the right and the left, well, criticizing his war policy, Biden's war policies, and I guess the only place that will even listen to her is Fox News.
Right.
So
Well, and she's now, if folks hadn't seen, she's now she's shilling for, she's endorsing these extreme right wing
yeah,
candidates like Mike Lee in Utah, who are election deniers and and downplay the seriousness of what happened on January 6th, 2021. In my view, that was the beginning of a fascist coup that is still continuing to roll forward. And the election coming up here in the next Tuesday
yeah,
is our opportunity to push back. Uh,
mhm,
the Democratic Party needs to be reformed, to be sure. So I mean, Tulsi Gabbard does have a point,
mhm,
absolutely. But there's a recent development here in Pennsylvania, if you hadn't caught this, is
mhm,
that the Our Revolution organizers, the folks who came out of the Bernie campaign in
mhm,
2016, have now captured the Progressive Caucus within
yeah,
state committee, Democratic State Committee. That's a huge development. That's the largest caucus within
yeah,
the Democratic Party.
no,
So progressives are actually making strong inroads within the Democratic Party, and we're now in a position where we can push for real reform. So that's a really positive development. So I'm focused on what we can work with in going forward.
Okay. I mean, I do remember you saying about the numbers in the state houses, like both houses of the legislature. I do remember back right after the election of, 2016, when Trump won the state, the Republicans actually had super majorities in both houses, veto proof, which meant even if Tom Wolf wanted to enact something like single payer, there's no way it would happen.
Right.
And and I guess now there's efforts like on the abortion front to try to put a constitutional amendment on the ballot, you know, that whoever the governor is could never veto.
Right.
So
Right.
so
Right.
yes,
Right.
these are some other troubling signs.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the conversations that we're going to have at the upcoming November 19 Intergenerational Summit is a conversation about how the challenges of organizing around at the intersection of reproductive rights and healthcare justice, healthcare rights. And they need to be fused. They need to be connected. And yet so many of our friends in social justice campaigns are disconnecting them, unfortunately, and are singularly focused not just on reproductive rights, but actually hollowing that out further and just talking about abortion alone. Now, abortion is a medical procedure. It needs to be protected. It's something that was codified and now has been overturned. The Roe decision of 1973 that said in the first trimester that the right to abortion, to terminating a pregnancy in that first 3 months because it's not viable, it's not a viable fetus at that point, should be constitutionally protected. The second trimester gave the states the power to regulate the second trimester period. And then the third trimester, it's illegal, except in the case of the life of the
The
mother.
mother.
And so the debate and the discussion around this has been distorted horribly and has turned people against each other. And one of the three pillars of fascism, what I call religious nationalism, the other two are white nationalism or white supremacy, and state corporatism, the fusion of state corporate power. Those are the three cornerstones of fascism. That's where Mussolini started the discussion. But religious nationalism is a phenomenon in this country that is turned our politics completely upside down, where people are being told from the pulpit that Jesus was a warrior and that Jesus regards abortion as the ultimate sin and that there's nothing more important than stopping abortion. Meanwhile, those folks are conditioned to voting against their own economic self-interests, their own economic survival.
Hmm.
Why? Because billionaires, it's the billionaires who are funding these mega churches. Billionaires. It's the billionaire class that is really the culprit in our society and around the globe, who are accelerating climate change, who are fostering and fueling the rise of fascism around the globe. Billionaires. There's about 2,500 in the world. Go over to
Yeah,
Forbes.com and you'll
I
see the
know.
list. I think it's about 2,600. But these are the folks who are causing the greatest damage around the planet, the billionaire class.
Okay. I do know that, well, of course, there's one here in Pennsylvania who's been getting some attention, Jeff Yasts. So there's at least one here. I guess Richard Mellonscafe, well, I guess he's dead, but his family probably still supports those things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They believe they're entitled to everything. Now, I shouldn't say every single billionaire, but the majority believe that they shouldn't pay taxes. They really believe the narrative that they're the so-called jobs creators, which is a complete myth. The people who create jobs in this country are the middle class who spend money. I mean, that's where the jobs are created. The billionaire class actually sucks money out of the system and causes the loss of economic flow and economic. And a third of the world's wealth is, you might know this, right, is offshore. A third of the world's wealth This is The Economist is
like
documented.
the Cayman Islands and
That's right. That's right.
Panama.
And that the fact that that currency is not in circulation causes recessions, inflation, and fuels the rise of right wing populism, also known as fascism. So that's really problematic. But we're going to wrestle that down to the ground. I hope here we can share a couple of these websites, maybe.
Sure, sure. I mean, yeah, I could do a. Let's see. I guess. All right, I can let you share the screen. Let's see,
Okay.
one per. Okay.
Share or the chat, whatever's easy for you.
Yeah. Well, there's a. Yeah. Well, there's a. You. Well, you can just click the share screen button. Well, just let me know if you can.
No, it says
It's
I'm
not.
disabled, so I guess I need to be made a co-host.
Okay. Let me see here. I try. Let's see. I click multiple. Let's see. Multiple advanced sharing options. Okay. Who can share? Oh, whoops. One participant. Okay. It says here all. Okay. All right. Well, here I clicked all participants. Try again.
Okay,
Still not.
hang on a sec. Yeah, I'm trying to get back to where I need to be. Forward. Let's see. Let me go over here. Okay, so this is the
Okay. Okay. There. Now it's being
right.
shared. Okay.
So this is the introductory note here is just that fans of anti-fascism and pro-democracy because they complement one another.
Hmm.
Welcome to Fascism 2.0 American Style. And this website is designed to really just sort of educate us up as to what is unique about American fascism. But there's a 31-point document that you can find in here, the three cornerstones that I mentioned, white nationalism, religious nationalism, and state corporatism is all explained. And
Okay.
there's a blog, which I would love for you to jump in at some point if you want.
Sure.
And take a look at what we're doing there.
Okay.
Let's see. Let me pull up another one of these sites real quick for you all. So that's AmericanFascists.us. It's
Okay.
plural, AmericanFascists.us.
Hmm.
Let me pull that one down and then pull up the second one, which is Justice for All. And this one,
This
uh,
is for all dot global. Okay.
Right, right. And here you can register for the upcoming summit, justiceforall.global. And we lay out, so we're open source. We have a strategic plan for
Hmm.
getting to Justice for All. We've got a leadership team and contact information. And then the third one, where we started the conversation, is over at One Pair of States.
Okay.
.org. So that's the third site where we do our work, and you can see here that Pramila Jayapal is featured on our homepage.
Hmm.
And you can also register for the upcoming Intergenerational Summit here. So onepairstates.org, AmericanFascists.us, and justiceforall.global.
Okay. Well, I'll be sure to link to all three in the post and to get help spread the word and invite a bunch of people, young and old, to
Terrific.
try to bridge. I'll be sure to share with put people first and other organizations.
Yeah. That's
So
great.
yes, on Saturday, Trump is coming to Latrobe. So I was going to go to that and walk into the belly of the beast and just get some interviews and everything. So
Good for you. Good for you. Yeah, that's
I
important.
mean, I think yes, we shouldn't. Yes, we should try to engage with them and not to completely cut ourselves off.
Absolutely. The folks on the right are no less economically distressed than people on the left and the center. It's a problem across the board. the question is, how do we solve these problems? And it does begin with economics. And until we get to economic stability,
Hmm.
it's so easy, especially on the right, but it happens on the left, that folks will engage in these culture wars, right?
Yeah.
Attacking each other for identity, for
Hmm.
what folks wear, tattoos, piercing, how they
Yeah.
identify in terms of LGBTQ, and we can't be screaming at each other. You're absolutely right, Paul. We need to listen to each other and hear each other's pain points.
Hmm.
Back in 2011, you'll recall, and hopefully your listeners may have a memory for this too, is that when the Tea Party rose, almost immediately after the rise of the Tea Party came Occupy.
Yeah.
The Occupy movement sprung out of the Middle East, but it came to American shores. And what's interesting is that most there was mostly agreement, interestingly enough, by the folks who were part of the Occupy movement and the Tea Party movement. They both identified the major culprits in our society as the billionaire class on Wall Street. They both agreed.
Okay.
And they
Yeah.
both still agree on that. People on the left and the right see the billionaire class
Hmm.
as complicit.
And maybe just different billionaires sometimes.
Right, right. Well, you'll notice, because I follow right-wing media, is that Elon Musk has been elevated to superstar status on the right, and yet
Hmm.
he's just taking Twitter
Yeah.
down the tubes. I mean, he's just
Hmm.
flushing it. And
Hmm.
there's no censorship against hate speech. So people are out there using the N-word and other pejorative language, hate language, all over the place on Twitter. So the people,
Okay.
the engineers who are actually responsible for cleaning up the site so that it's responsible and civilized,
Hmm.
have been derailed. They've
Yeah.
been so the, so the agreement there with Occupy and the Tea Party was the billionaire class was complicit, and both the right and the left are critical of the government as well.
Hmm.
The government is a bit on the right; they put the government first and Wall Street second. On the left, it's Wall Street first and the government second in
Yeah.
terms of identified problems.
Okay. I'm sorry, we're just about out of time, but this is only a half hour meeting, but certainly we covered a lot of territory and I'll be happy to post it. And well, I guess we could always have a follow-up conversation anytime.
Terrific, Paul. Very grateful to you and your listeners, and the opportunity to share a vision of radical hope and radical hospitality,
Yeah.
welcoming one another without judgment.
Okay. Well, thank you, Chuck. And yes, well, looking forward to it. Yes, I guess it says we have about 3 minutes left. Well, some roughly 3 minutes. So,
Okay,
okay. But yes, I do have to get going. But well, yes, it was a good discussion. And well, I'll be happy to continue it anytime.
terrific, Paul. All the best to you, and yeah, let's keep in touch even as I move out to Oregon later this year. We'll
Sounds good.
keep the
All right.
conversation on.